Hey, it's Todd Jarrett with Team Staccato. 30 years of experience has taught me a lot about shooting. As a national world champion, I've seen just about every failure there is with a semi-automatic pistol. Today, I want to cover some key points to be able to make sure that your gun goes in battery correctly. Also, while you're shooting, understand how to be able to hold it correctly. But first, let's talk about ammunition in your pistol. Okay, let's take a look at the first round. The first round right here has actually been driven into the case by the feed ramp by improperly gripping the gun, which we'll talk about later. The typical round nose full metal jacketed bullet in 115 or in 124 are typically the rounds we would see for practice, and you see a lot of those in the stores today, and they work extremely well. Now the problem is we got hollow point bullets for defense situations. They can be extremely difficult to feed in small guns or in all guns if not held properly. When it comes to flat point bullets, we're talking about frangible ammunition, lead ammunition, and bullets that are made by copper wash. They can be extremely difficult for certain guns to be able to eat properly downrange. Now, if I take a look, I want to make sure that I inspect all of my ammunition to make sure that the primers are in correctly and there are no dents, anything. The manufacturers make millions of rounds every single week to us, and guess what? They do make mistakes. Now, let's take a look at how to load your magazine properly. Loading your magazine will be very important. This is a lifeline to the firearm itself. When loading a round into the magazine, you want to make sure that the round goes completely to the rear of the magazine by pushing it forward. If you are new to shooting and you are trying to get the magazine completely loaded, my recommendation is to have one round come off of it. And the reason why, it will seat better until you get used to the firearm and break in the existing new spring. For some reason, if the round does not go to the rear and you actually place the round in, another one on top of it, what will happen is when that round comes off that magazine, that bullet will go forward and be pointing in a downward direction. This will have a tendency to have a failure to feed onto the feed ramp. When it comes to single stacks, they are a little bit more difficult, and you must understand that when putting one in there, if it's not put in correctly and the nose is driven forward, I'm demonstrating here for you, you'll notice if it's not to the rear and you stick in the gun, very, very likely the gun will not operate and it will nosedive. Let's take a look at the grip now, because I feel that is the most important thing that we'll have to work on here to make you a better shot and keep your gun working reliably. Now, let's talk about the importance of being able to grip the gun properly when you go to the range. If you don't grip the gun correctly and hold it loose in your hand, the gun will not cycle to the rear, kick out the empty cartridge, and pick up the next one correctly. Let's look at the strong hand grip on this side of it now. So what we want to do is make sure we make good contact underneath the trigger guard. That locks us in place, but allowing a web of our hand to get underneath the grip safety to make sure that we have a nice firm grip and we're as high as to the center of the bore as possible, allowing us to be able to make sure that we have a good control over the firearm. With the support hand now making contact on the left hand side of the gun, the higher you are to the center of the bore of the gun, the more reliable and more accurate you will be. So if I place my support hand where my fingers are underneath that trigger guard with a nice firm grip, my thumb is now on the frame and not the slide, along with my strong hand side. I don't want to be touching the slide. I don't want to disrupt the cycle rate of the gun. By gripping the gun with a nice firm grip, extending the gun out there and pulling the trigger properly, but maintaining the constant grip for every single round. This will make the gun more reliable. Now, let's load this thing up and shoot some bullets. It is always important to wear eye and ear protection when on the range. When loading any firearm, to make sure that you point in a safe direction and never put your finger into the trigger. There are two ways to load a Staccato P. The entire line is Staccatos. When I insert a magazine into the gun, you'll find there's an object on the side called a slide stop. This allows the slide to move forward, picking up the round. My choice is inserting the magazine with the slide forward, grabbing the back of the serration with a nice firm grip. By putting a nice firm grip on the gun, it allows me to just push the frame forward in order to pick up the round correctly off the magazine into the gun. I hope these techniques help you out, but most of all, Staccato P, made in Texas, built for heroes. Good luck and safe shooting.